So for our review for our quadratic equations quiz, remember you can use a scientific calculator, not a graphing calculator. But here we're asked to factor each equation. So I'm going to use an area model. Now for a quadratic equation, we are going to have our x squared term in standard form go in the upper left-hand corner, and our constant number go in the lower right. Now our x terms are going to go here and here. And in order to figure that out, we need factors of 36 that sum to the middle term, 13. So I'm just going to start listing them. Now I know I could have 1 and 36, but that's too big. So if I did 2 and 18, also too big. 3 and 12, if I add those, I get 15. So what about 4 and then 9? 9 times 4 is 36, and when I add those, I get 13. So now that those are my factors, I'm going to put them up here. So I could have 4 and then also 9. And then here for the x, I would have x and x. So remember, in standard form, this would be your 4x and 9x. And inside this rectangle is your standard form. On the outside is factored form. So this would be x plus 4. And then here, this is x plus 9. So we would have x plus 4 times x plus 9. Same idea for p squared minus 6p plus 16. So in the upper left-hand square, you put p squared. And in the lower right, you have 16. Well, remember, we're going to do factors. So I'm just going to put f of positive 16. And they have to sum to negative 6. So in looking at that, if I do factors of 16 that sum to negative 6, in looking at that, I could have negative 1 and negative 16, negative 2 and negative 8. And these sums, this would be negative 17, negative 10. And then I could also have negative 4 and negative 4. That would be negative 8. So if I'm looking at this one is not possible. And remember, not all equations can, or not all quadratic equations can be factored. So if we were trying to solve when this would equal 0, we'd have to use the quadratic formula. Then here again, we have x squared and negative 49. So this would be x and x. And to get that negative 49, I would need factors of 49, which are only going to be 1 and 49, or 7 and 7. And one would have to be positive, and one would have to be negative. So the factored form here is going to be x plus 7 and x minus 7. And the reason why these are going to be blank, this is going to be 7x, this is going to be negative 7x, and they end up canceling each other out and making 0. So this is x minus 7 times x plus 7. Now, for this 9x squared minus 36, again, this is that perfect square combo, if we're looking at that. We have in the upper right-hand square, 9x squared, and then this is minus 36. 9x squared is a perfect square of 3x times 3x. So my first terms here are going to be 3x and 3x. And then remember, the square root of 36 is 6. And we're going to have one be positive and one be negative. So this would be plus 3x plus 6 and 3x minus 6. And again, inside here, 6 times 3x would be 18x. Negative 6 times 3x would be minus 18x. So this would be plus 6 and then minus 6. Now, to expand each equation, what you would do if I have 1/2 x minus 6, I'm going to, again, make my area model. So 1/2 x minus 6. And then times 1/2 x and then minus 6, because that's what happened when you squared it. Now, 1/2 times 1/2 would be 1/4. So multiply the numbers there. And then x times x makes x squared. 1/2 times negative 6, well, half of negative 6 is negative 3x. And then again, half of negative 6 here would be, again, the negative 3x. And then negative 6 times negative 6 would be plus 36. So in looking at that, this would be 1/4 x squared. To combine my x terms, negative 3x plus negative 3x would be minus 6x. Then here, this would be plus 36. And then here you have your 3D plus 5 times your 3D minus 5. So you have your 3D plus 5 and 3D minus 5. And then 3D times 3D is 9D squared. And then 3D times negative 5, 3 times negative 5 is negative 15D. 5 times 3 would be 15D. And then 5 times negative 5 is minus 25. Again, the D terms cancel out. So you get 9D squared and then minus 25. Now here, to select all the equations that are equivalent to x squared plus 6x minus 6, we're going to put them all in standard form. So here, what I would do is add 6 to both sides of the equation. So this would become x squared plus 6x plus 6. So I need to circle all of these equations in standard form that end up equaling this. So x squared plus 6x plus 9 is not correct. Here, I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. And if I do 9 minus 15, you can use a calculator for that if you need to. You get negative 6. So this is x squared plus 6x minus 6 equals 0. So that's not true. Then subtract 25 here. And you get x squared plus 6x. And then we can do 9 minus 25 and get negative 16. So minus 16 equals 0. So that's not true. And then here we have to do the x plus 3 squared. Well, if I draw an area model for that, that is x and 3 times x and 3. So this would be x squared plus this would be 3x plus another 3x and then plus 9. So that makes x squared plus 6x and then plus 9. So looking at that, that is not true. So remember here, we just did some work for x plus 3 squared. So this is really x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 3. So I just simplified that. We did that work here. So now to put that in standard form, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So we get x squared plus 6x, and then 9 minus 3 would be plus 6 equals 0. So this is true. And then on here, what I can do is do x squared plus 6x plus 9 And then that equals 25. Subtract 25 from both sides. So if we did 9 minus 25 here, we get negative 16. So x squared plus 6x minus 16 equals 0. Well, that's not true either. So my only one was E. That was equivalent. So now what we're going to do here is solve each equation. So first, we need to get both 0 on one side of the equation and everything else on the other side. So what I'm going to do here is add 20. So my equation is x squared minus 9x. Remember, I don't add the 9 and the 20 because this has an x that doesn't. So plus 20 equals 0. So I'm looking for factors of 20 that sum together to make negative 9. So two numbers that multiply to make positive 20, but when I add them, they're negative. Well, both would have to be negative. And then I'm thinking, well, 5 times 4 is 20. So negative 5 times negative 4 is also 20. And negative 5 plus negative 4 is negative 9. So my two numbers that multiply together to make 20 and add to negative 9, it would be x minus 5 times x minus 4 equals 0. And then you can set them equal to 0. X minus 5 equals 0. And x minus 4 equals 0. And then add 5 to both sides. And here, add 4 to both sides. And you would get x equals 5 and x equals 4. Now I'm going to write that underneath here. X equals 5, x equals 4. And then I also circle them so that they stand out so that I can see the answers for that. Here I'm going to have to do a little bit of work as well. So I'm going to add 30 to both sides. So we have x squared plus 12x plus 36 equals 0. So I'm going to factor this and use an area model. So here in my area model, we would have x squared. In the lower right, you'd have 36. So this is going to be x and x. And then two numbers that multiply to be 36 that add to be 12. Well, that's going to be 6 and 6. So that would be 6x and 6x. To verify that, I'd have x squared and then plus 12x and plus 36. So my factored form here, this would be x plus 6 times another x plus 6. So x plus 6 times x plus 6 equals 0. Then both of my factors are the same, so I only set x plus 6 equal to 0 and solve. So subtract 6 from both sides and get x equals negative 6. And then for this last part, we have 2x squared minus 40x plus 200 equals 0. So a equals 2, b equals negative 40, and c equals 200. So we write the quadratic formula, x equals negative b, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Then I just plug in my numbers. So x equals the negative of negative 40, or the opposite of negative 40. So x equals positive 40, plus or minus the square root of, so I'm going to go here, negative 40 squared minus 4 times 2 times 200 all over, and then 2 times 2. So I'm going to do the square root portion first, or the discriminant of the equation. The b squared minus 4ac is again called the discriminant. So on here, you take the square root of, and you do negative 40 squared minus 4 times 2 times 200. And that gives me 0. So this is just going to be x equals 40 divided by, and I can put 40 plus or minus 0, divided by 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And then this is just going to have one answer. 40 divided by 4 is 10. So my solution here is x equals 10. And then lastly, a community theater uses the equation P of D equals negative 4 times D squared plus 400D minus 500 to model the profit expected in a weekend for a comedy show where D is the price charged. So write and solve an equation to find out the prices at which the theater would earn $2,500. So what you do is you plug that in for P of D. So we have this equation, 2,500 equals negative 4D squared plus 400D minus 500. And then what I need to do is get 0 on this side. So I subtract 2,500. And we get 0 equals negative 4D squared plus 400D minus 3,000. And then from there, what you do is just have A equals negative 4, B equals 400, and C equals negative 3,000. And then we just go into our quadratic formula. X equals negative B, so negative 400, plus or minus the square root of B squared, so 400 is B squared, minus 4, so again, this is a minus, times, this is negative 4, so I'm going to write it where it's raised so that you know to put in negative 4, times, so negative 4 times A, and then times C, which is negative 3,000, all over 2 times negative 4, so that's negative 8. So what I'm going to do here is put the square root of 400 squared and such in a calculator. So we have the square root of 400 squared minus 4 times, and then I have to do negative 4, so I press the negative 4. And you notice that's smaller, so you can tell it's negative compared to the minus sign. So minus 4 times negative 4 times negative 3,000. And that gives us 334.66. So x equals negative 400 plus or minus 334.66, all divided by negative 8. So we need to break this up and go x equals negative 400 plus 334.66 all over negative 8. And x equals negative 400 minus 334.66 all over negative 8. So on here, to do this in a calculator, I'm going to go parentheses, negative 400 plus 334.66, then divide that by negative 8, and that is 8.1675. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. So negative 400 minus 334.66, and then divided by negative 8. So that would give me 91.8325. So there are my two answers. That would be the two prices that I could charge: $8.16 or 17 cents if I round it, and $91.83. So, in looking at this, I could have a cheaper concert and probably have more people come, or a more expensive concert and have less people come. So, now at what price would we maximize the profit? Well, the maximum profit is at the vertex. And to find the vertex of a parabola, you go x is equal to negative b over 2a. So it's just this first portion of the quadratic formula. So here, in this case, it would be negative 400 over 2 times negative 4. So here I go negative 400 divided by 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. So I'm just going to put in the negative 8. And it would be 50. So this would be x equals $50 will be my maximum profit. And if you want to figure out what the maximum profit is, you substitute in 50 to this equation. So I would go, all right, my profit, y, is going to equal negative 4 times 50 squared plus 400 times 50 and then minus 500. So here we have negative 4 times 50 squared plus 400 times 50 and then minus 500. And that maximum profit would be $9,500.